Chris, what is our first main topic today?
Our first topic comes from Eric Dunn. Hey, John, I remember when Moon Knight was on, you guys talked about if Gorr may show up at some point since all the Egyptian gods were there. I just heard that they were thinking about including references to Gorr because they weren't sure if Thor 4 was going to come out before or after Moon Knight did. Do you think they should have left the references in there?
All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Eric. And yeah, we were actually going into Moon Knight and wondering, because we knew Gorr the God Butcher is coming in Thor 4. And what do we have in Moon Knight? We have Egyptian gods. So will Gorr at some point be referenced? Could Gorr even show up? Now, of course, the show is done. There was neither a Gorr reference nor a Gorr appearance, obviously. At least I was wondering, could they have done that? Well, turns out it was something they thought about, and they even had some references to Gorr in the show because at the time, they did not know if Thor Love and Thunder was going to come out before or after Moon Knight. This comes to us from the lead writer of Moon Knight. His name's Jeremy Slater, and he said the following. So, talking about the fact that they didn't know when the show was going to come out compared to the movie. So there were different versions of the script where the gods would sort of talk about this thing with Gorr, the God Butcher, just happened, and now we've got this new problem. And then there were other versions of the script where they sort of talked about, we're hearing rumors that gods are dying. This is not the right time to get involved. Like we tried to have our cake and eat it too. But we had versions of the story that sort of teased Gorr's arrival and ones that were sort of taking place in the aftermath of Thor Love and Thunder. Ultimately, at some point, Marvel just made the creative decision, you know what? We don't necessarily need this. And they just decided to take it out. So one of the things that he talked about in there was that there was discussions that Moon Knight was supposed to come out, not that Thor was going to come earlier, but that Moon Knight was going to come out later in 2022. That had a lot to do with that. And Jeremy Slater goes on to talk about, you know what, Marvel's become really good at going, do we really need to unnecessarily have a random cameo that we don't need? Or a random reference that doesn't make sense to the story just so we can say, look, everybody, it connects. And he says Marvel's getting really good at just dropping those out, which I'm really glad that they do. So look, I would say this. If they had moved Moon Knight or had Moon Knight come out in late 2022, then it would have been odd to not have a reference to Gorr the God Butcher, considering the nature of what he is. But considering this is coming out before, there would be no reason to have it in there. So I am quite frankly perfectly satisfied that they didn't have it there. Chris, you hear the lead writer saying we had some dialogue in that scene, in the temple scene where all the gods like, oh, first Gorr the God Butcher, now this. What do you think about the fact that they decided to take him out? Do you think they should have left them in there, or are you happy the way they applied it?
I'm honestly happy it's removed because I still don't know what's real in Moon Knight.
Right.
And I think having that connection would have made me have a more sure, yes, absolutely, this is all connected. Everything is really happening here. So I like the ambiguity that Moon Knight is living in, and I'm happy they removed that.
Rob, you hear about all this? I mean, it would have been kind of fun hearing, we hear that gods are dying, although it's like, okay, that wouldn't have been so subtle. But I don't know, what would you think if they had left those references in?
Well, you know, if it had more of a connection, I just didn't know how cinematic it would be. Couldn't Gorr just show up and like shatter all those little statues of the gods?
Well, that technically would have released them.
Yeah, that's true. And then he would just kill them.
Then he would have killed them.
Just bam. I think it's probably best that they don't mention it, because if they did, why didn't are the Egyptian gods not worthy of being slaughtered by Gorr? Like, are they not good enough? Like, would they go into an existential god crisis? Like, oh man, you went to Olympus.
Oh my God, Gorr didn't
what about
want
us?
to kill me. This is bullshit.
You know, we got the pyramids. Isn't that worth something? No, I don't know. I mean, I think it although it does beg the question, depending on how Gorr chooses the gods that he decides to murder, I'm going to be asking myself, I will ask myself the questions the Egyptians gods would ask. Aren't we worthy of slaughter? I mean, why not? And they did introduce them as Egyptian gods, but like you said, they'll just leave the ambiguity. Because I still believe, John, what we saw in Moon Knight didn't all actually happen.
Oh, I think it did.
The way it was depicted.
I think it totally did. But
I know.
It does answer one question though. Because while we were talking about Moon Knight, one of the issues that came up was we're not even 100% sure when this show takes place.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It seems that by them having to decide, okay, does this take place before the events of Thor or after the event? Like, is this going to be released before Thor or is it going to be released after Thor? That seems to establish that, yes, this is current time in the MCU. So we know it wasn't pre-snap or whatever like that. It is current time that this all happens. I am very relieved they didn't just throw in useless, because then what's next? Like Moon Knight's talking to Khonshu. Well, Khonshu, you're a dick, just like Tony Stark. We said Tony Stark, everybody.
I mean, if they mug the camera like that,
Yeah,
then
that's exactly what they would do. You know,
Perfect.
turn to the camera and wink. It's like, yes, are you an Egyptian superhero? Yes, I'm an Egyptian female superhero, like an Egyptian Black Widow. Like that seems to be what some Marvel fan, like, I'm so glad they are cutting out, because if it wouldn't naturally be a part of the conversation, it wouldn't naturally be there and thing come up, don't start throwing in these random, look everybody, it's all connected. Woo! Like, I'm so glad they're not doing that.
And showing is much more interesting than telling. So
Yes.
if Gorr popped up and just cooked some fools at the end, then yeah,
Yes.
I'm here for that. If he has no
that what he does?
lines,
Does he cook
He
fools?
cooks
He cooks
fools.
fools.
He cooks fools.
That's the name of his book, as a matter of fact.
then
And
he
his
eats
band. Yeah, it's a scientific name.
Wait, is this a real picture?
No, that's a figure. That's a Gorr the God
Yeah.
Butcher
Okay.
figure. From that's the way it's
Is
depicted in the comics.
Rad though, right?
Right. That's I was
Yes.
like, okay.
You and I know that's not what he looks like.
Oh, well, that's what I was saying. Well, we only know certain things. I mean, I was like, is this a different
Yeah.
incarnation of Gorr?
But guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think that Moon Knight should have included references to Gorr? I mean, if it happens, technically now we know before the events of Thor: Love and Thunder, probably made no sense at all. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. Now, Ann and I were both working professionals, so sometimes making delicious and nutritious meals can sometimes be very time constraining on us. And that is why we love HelloFresh. HelloFresh makes having delicious and nutritious meals fun, easy, and it saves us time and money. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, and that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And listen, HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than dining at a restaurant, and it's even cheaper than grocery shopping. That's money back in your pocket. HelloFresh has fit and wholesome recipes for satisfying and nutritious meals that you can feel good about, with 6 recipes per week to choose from, including low-calorie and carb-conscious options. So right now, guys, go to HelloFresh.com/Campea16 and use the code Campea16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Once again, that's HelloFresh.com/Campea16. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.